Hello and welcome to the Green Profit Academy Pros Podcast. This show digs into the challenges in growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit. I'm Christeen
And I'm Steve Bousquet. We are the green industry experts in profit, growth, and leadership.
Hello, Christeen. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am pretty good today. It's Monday. I'm excited to be at work.
Well, that's good.
Recording this podcast.
We know you love your job if you're excited to be at work.
I do love my job. I love talking about what we're going to be talking about today. It's one of my favorite subjects, next to grass and soil and CliftonStrengths.
Yeah, I thought this would be fun. This kind of came up as a topic as we're getting ready, and it will actually drop around the time that we get back from our Mind Your Own Business retreat. So this is some of the stuff that we're going to be diving really deep into around leadership at that retreat. And so I was like, hey, we should talk about this on a podcast.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super powerful. And we've been talking about Gallup, CliftonStrengths now for so long, years for us, right? But on the podcast for quite a while. And I know people have been contacting us, have been curious about it. And one of the biggest things in Gallup, CliftonStrengths is like communicating between the domains. And we're going to go over what the domains are. And so today we're going to be talking about like, how do the domains connect? How do they communicate? How can we communicate better? And it's really, I'm really looking forward to this podcast today.
Yeah. And I think this has, been one of those things I love the learning journey in business and leadership, because there's things that we didn't think about before, and they kind of start showing up in our world. And this is one of those things that started showing up as the more, working with clients, working with their team, going to their locations, seeing the challenges that's happening. And one of the things that was kind of coming up consistently was the domains having challenges in the leadership team or in the business, connecting and communicating. And they think that they're understanding what the other is saying, but come to find out that's not really happening. But the interesting side of that coin was that they both wanted the same thing, but they also didn't understand, that the other wanted the same thing. So there was a lot of opportunity there to kind of get on the same page. And no matter how hard they tried, they just weren't quite meeting each other in the middle.
And I understand this firsthand. I lead with influencing, and my landscape manager leads with executing and then with relationship. And we will want the same thing in trying to communicate the same thing. It's like we're speaking two different languages, but we're saying the same thing. And when people are like listening to us, they're like, you guys are agreeing loudly, saying the same thing in completely different vocabulary, giving each other directions to get to the same place, but it sounds like neither one of you are using the same words. So I understand it. And I've had to work with him, asking him, how would you like me to communicate to you? What is the process, the system that you want me to use? How do you want me to follow that process? What are words that you're comfortable with? And if I don't follow that system or process that he wants to be communicated with, it fails. So it's very interesting how the domains need to be communicated. Now, it's not going to work for every domain how him and I developed it. So you really have to pay attention, because like I have influencing with relationship. So if you have influencing paired with strategic, it's going to be a very different way that you're going to need to be communicated to. So the four domains, let's just kind of start with, we'll do a refresh on what the domains are. So there's the executing domain, which that's the theme that helps you make things happen, right? The executing domain gets stuff done get stuff done is kind of the theme for the executing domain, make things happen. The influencing domain or influencing theme They help you take charge, speak up, and it also makes sure others are heard. So with the influencing theme, that is like the developer shows up in that, the developer strength, because they want to make sure other people are heard and other people are finding their place in the role in the spotlight. The relationship building theme helps you build strong relationships that will hold a team together. And then the strategic thinking theme helps you absorb and analyze information that informs better decisions. So we have the 4 domains that consist of different themes. And so when they want to communicate, it's almost like they can be speaking completely different languages.
Yes. And it makes sense, because I'm strategic, and then closely behind that, I have executing. So I like to get things done quickly and efficiently, and I like to close all the gaps so we can get things done even faster. And, some people don't relate with that. They're like, you move too fast. How do you get so much stuff done? What is it that you're doing now? And when did that happen? So there's this disconnect that can happen based on how we show up and how we communicate. So I totally understand. And though I've been using the, CliftonStrengths, the Gallup CliftonStrengths to lead, the company, to develop my team, to understand like who's in the right role, I'm still learning so much valuable information with the strengths. And it just helps us get there faster. The more we learn about ourselves, these domains, and I think communication is key when we're connecting on a team and trying to communicate what's our vision? What do we want done? When do we want it done? What does that look like? All these things. So that way we're all rowing in the same direction.
Oh, absolutely. Now, the challenge is we can't know every person in the world that we're going to speak to, their domain strengths, but we definitely want to know the overall theme of our team in our company. Like my team is definitely relationship and executing based, right? So as an influencer, I need to know when I'm speaking overall to the company, I want to make sure that I'm connecting with relationship and executing terms and phrases and language that connects with that executing and relationship domain. And also with my main managers, I have my lawn care manager who leads with influencing and strategic thinking, my business manager who leads with relationship and then executing, and then my landscape manager who leads with executing and then relationship. So 3 different people. So those are the main people I'm going to communicate with in my company. I need to know how each one of those 3 people need to be communicated to individually. Mm-hmm. So I don't need every single person in the company, but definitely the overall theme and the top people that I'm communicating with.
Right. So if you're influencing and that's your domain, then how would you communicate to someone who is strategic thinking? And this is interesting because Steve is influencing and I'm strategic.
So you're strategic. My lawn care manager is strategic, number 1. My wife's strategic, number 2. Many of my good friends are strategic, number 1, 2, or 3. So how I communicate with strategics is I ask for input. I always will try to listen, and I need to always ask another question because they're looking at things with far more detail than I am. Mm-hmm. And they will get frustrated with me. So when they get frustrated with me, I won't get frustrated with their frustration. Like, why are you getting frustrated with me? I already know why they're getting frustrated with me. It's because I'm not asking enough detail or I'm getting ahead of it, right? I'm not slowing down enough to implement all the detail that they're talking about or sharing. So just understanding that I need to slow down when I'm talking to a strategic, and also knowing that I need to bring more information that I typically would bring. Right. So I need to have, dates. data, links, more, availability to more information than I typically would have. I don't need to provide it. I just need to tell them where they can find the information.
Well, I think the key here is, and this is going to be kind of obvious once you hear me say it, is you're motivating their strategic. So how can, as an influencing, how can you motivate their strategic to engage? And that, strategically, we want to know things, right? Why, when, how, what, who. Those are the questions that's going through a strategic's mind. It's that analyzing the information. So then the more we have, the faster we can get there. And then we can tell you what holes you're going to fall in along the way.
Right. And that's why it's important for me to share the links and the information, because I will not be able to provide all that when, where, what, how, who in the numbers. But here's the link. Here's this information sheet. Here's the data. And then they'll dig into that data and find out anything that was wrong with the data, or anything that was wrong with the website, or anything that was wrong with that Excel sheet. And they'll point that out. So I can never deliver all the information that they need, but I need to point them in the direction where they can go find it, because they want to go find it, and they'll have more questions than I can ever answer, and they'll turn over more rocks than I could even point to. So just being able to kind of provide more information or where they can find it. They don't need me to tell them all the answers, just kind of let them know outcomes are really important. Outcomes are important. Timeframes are really important. Goals of what we're trying to accomplish are really important. And they'll figure out the majority of everything else.
Right. Yeah. So information, so data-driven insights, and motivating their strategic. So that's kind of the approach that someone of influencing, when they want something or communicating to a strategic, that's how they can get what they want, kind of say, hey, this is where I'm trying to go, and get their support.
Yes. So, right. Tell them the goal, the outcome is really important to them, and why you're doing it. And they'll figure out the how. The other thing with strategics is you definitely have to acknowledge their efforts when they're putting all this time in, and not that they want a good boy, like good job, but they want to be appreciated for the efforts that they're putting in, because they do put more effort in than I would put into something. So they're really digging deeper than like the average person. They're turning over the rocks, they're turning the page. So they want to be acknowledged for that effort. And so that's when we've talked about this early on other episodes, acknowledge without praise. So actually giving them praise sometimes is insulting to them. So that acknowledge without praise, like, hey, I see you did that report. I see you did 15 pages, and I see the detail you put into it, is much more effective feedback to them than, oh, wow, that was a really good job. What a super terrific job you did. That does not mean anything to them. But if you point out, I see the work you did on page 14 and the detail you put into these 3 answers, that information was very helpful to me.
Yeah, it's the awareness of, how deep and wide they went into whatever that they're working on. So it's others being aware, like, don't give us attaboys or pats on the head. Just be aware of what we brought to the table is kind of what it is.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that's why I work so good with strategics, because I kind of understand what they need up front, and also what they need supported at the end. And another reason why with my influencing is I work so well with strategic is because I don't get in their way. I don't throw roadblocks up. Like, I don't micromanage them. I don't question their motivation, because a lot of times when they're doing extra questioning or extra investigation or research, it's because they saw something. They don't know exactly what it was, but they have to know more about it. And there's a link that they're trying to connect to something else. So sometimes they need a little more or a lot more time than even I was expecting that a project was going to take. And it usually, I'm going to say the majority of the time, the extra time ends up having a return on investment.
Yeah. And I would say too, a way that an influencing person, someone who leads with influencing, can support a strategic is keeping them in their lane. So we've talked about, where strategics, they kind of have, or domains and strengths they have their, their challenges, right? Or their Achilles heel. And so I think with influencing, that can show up in a way to support a strategic to where we can help them stay out of the weeds, not get into too much detail and overthink things, but just kind of help them stay in a very, productive, focused lane.
Yes, you do. You have to have a very gentle way of kind of guiding them back into what was the goal, when does it need to be done, and why we were doing it. Because sometimes they can be a dog on a bone and like just go deeper and deeper and deeper when that's not supporting the what, the why, and the when.
Right.
So you really need to kind of help them understand that and watch them. And it ends up being healthy because they'll appreciate that when you do it, but you need to do it in a really supportive way.
Like give me 3 things, not 12.
Right.
Let's find, 2 solutions, not 20.
Right.
So kind of giving them a little bit more focus of the what is, I think, supportive and a gentle way of doing that.
And I think paying attention when they're working on stuff and when they find it, acknowledging them for finding it, because if you leave them alone too long, they'll dig deeper and deeper and deeper. So you definitely want to keep that communication open with them and don't just let them off by themselves for too long, because they can, depending on what their additional other strengths are, if they have learner, analytical, and input, they can dig a pretty deep research hole. So we want to support them on that what, when, where, and why, and let them know that they achieved the goal and it's going to be complete in time so we can continue moving forward.
Right. So the next would be influencing to relationship. And how would you communicate as someone that leads with influencing? And you kind of shared an example of this a few minutes ago.
With Aaron. So his number one is empathy. He feels it right up front. So you really have to respect all the relationship. You have to slow down, listen, ask questions, don't rush, give them time, be very respectful. So as an influencing person, I don't have, even though I have influencing, I don't have competition, command, or significance in my top 10. So I have more of the communication, more interconnected. Relationships my second. So I go influencing relationships. So I connect a little bit.
So this is easier for you.
It's easier, but with relationship executing, I struggle because I don't have executing. So that's the challenge for me, is the executing. So the executing is harder for me than the strategic, because I don't lead with executing at all. And I have a challenge understanding the relationship executing part.
Right.
So what me and Aaron came up with, he wants to know why we're doing it and be very non-emotional, like this is why we're doing it, and just get right to the details. Don't put a lot of story into it. Don't use my woo. Don't add a lot of winning others over in there. So why we're doing it is this. This is my question. And, what support do you need around it? Get really to the point for that relationship executing person. Now I have other people who really lead with that relationship. They want a little bit of story. They really want that. They want the woo. So they want the story, they want the relationship. So that's a different conversation. So it also depends if if their empathy is mature or if it's immature. So if it's immature, it's very much about them. Everything is very much about them, whether it is or not. And if it's mature, it's not so much about them, it's about the relationship. So it depends on their maturity of their empathy, and there's other relationship. So, but whether they have a mature or immature empathy, taking the time and really slowing down, explaining why, don't rush them. And you just have to give them space to have that. It's that relationship domain can be super powerful because they keep teams together. They can build consensus. They can get people to do a lot of things together in a really powerful, positive way if you give them the time and space to do it. If you rush that relationship, if you push it, if they don't understand why and they don't feel good about it, it doesn't work out very well. So you definitely want to just slow things down and give reasons and give a little bit of story.
So it's that, what I'm hearing is it's that connective language that you're using to talk to them about the importance of what you're doing, really digging into like why it matters, maybe who it serves, things that nurture that relationship strength to where they can really see the connections of things and why it's important and sharing those details.
Yeah, if they lead heavy with the relationship, yes. If they're a relationship, but then they lead heavy with executing after that. So if it's executing a relationship, they want way less of the story, way less of the connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I call it just the facts, sir.
They want just the facts, but they really feel it up front. It's an interesting domain.
And then influencing to executing, and I'm strategic executing. Like I start with strategic, I fill it in with executing, I sprinkle a little bit of relationship and influencing on it, and then I finish with strategic. And that's kind of how I am. So we've worked together for some time, and I'm, definitely one of those people who get stuff done. And so when an influencing person comes in the door and they're talking to an executing person, what's important for that relationship? What needs to be communicated and how?
So it's very much like the when, what, why, where, right? So they definitely want to know why, what to do, and when to get it done by, not too much details and not too much story. And then you really want to get out of their way. So they don't really need to be felt won over. They're so anxious to get stuff going and get stuff done that they don't need all the glitz and glamour, and they don't need the romance of. So I would say, and by romance, I don't mean like romance of that. I mean romance of the relationship. And if people have high relationship, they need more of that connectedness. In executing, they don't need all the connectedness. Just tell me what to do, when it needs to be done, why I'm doing it. And the reason they need to know why to do it, because they want to add to it. They want to make it better. If they know why, they can make it better. If they know when, they can make it better. Can it be done faster? Can it be done quicker? Can it be done sooner? And so really you want to get that out there. They can miss the people part of it. So it's done, but there's victims. There's, we have collateral damage. There's bodies. So it got done, but there's collateral damage. So they miss the relationship part of it. So sometimes we have to, make sure that, okay, it needs to be done, but it's not at all in any cost, right?
Right.
So yes, this needs to be done, but we need to make sure that we're not taking out bodies. We're not leaving bodies behind.
Right.
So I usually will try to slow them down a little bit and try to give a little bit of, the bigger picture with executing, so they understand that, we told the story about laying bricks or building a building or building a monument to God. So they want to lay as many bricks as fast as they can to build that wall. And sometimes they do need to understand that we are building a monument to God that's going to last 1,000 years.
Right.
So, and sometimes they just need to know we're laying bricks. So you have to understand, what are we doing in that moment and how much do they need to understand? So that's a pretty fluid case. So, but really, again, that's why I work so well with executing, because I get out of their way. But you want to definitely give them enough information, but not too much.
Yeah. So action, kind of focused communication, and then also good milestones that will slow them down and giving them the purpose or the reason or what success looks like so they can work towards something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for production crews, you want to say, hey, this is where you should be at 10 o'clock. This is where you should be at noon. This is where you should be at 2 and then at 4. They do much better with milestones, like you mentioned. If you just said work hard all day, they will just work hard all day. But giving them milestones that
on whatever they want, they will.
Right. At noon and 4, they'll do much better. They need to know how to get a first down and what a touchdown looks like, and what they can do much better with when you let them know how to win and show them this is what, 10 yards is a first down, right? This is the goal line. If you get past here, you get a touchdown. And the more times you get past there, the more touchdowns you get. The more kind of communication you let them know how to win, they'll figure out how to get the touchdown. They'll figure out how to get the first downs, but you definitely want to communicate how to let them win. And then just really, you can just kind of get out of their way. They'll figure that rest out.
So then the next is going to be relationships. So people who lead with that relationship domain, and which I have a little bit of that, but I always say, like, there's parts of my team who do it so much better than me. So I let them lead with relationship, and I live in my strategic and executing, domains. So if someone is leading with relationship and they're talking to someone who's leading with executing, how does that look?
So it really depends on which relationship you're leading with, right? Like developer is one of my relationship. Individualization is one of my relationship domains, themes, right? So that is easy for me because I can say, you as an executor can do this developing. So that's how I can communicate to them. With empathy, it might be a little bit different. So basically, again, it's really slowing down and sharing with the executing person what you're trying to accomplish and keeping it shorter, but trying to get them connected to the work and why it's important to get it done, when it's supposed to get it done by.
So kind of talking more about the team collaboration,
yes.
Why collaborating and communicating with and connecting with the other team members is important. Trying to, maybe bring to the table already so they understand like what the value is of us working on this project or getting this done as a team, or while they're executing, connecting with others or supporting others. So kind of giving them, I would kind of think it would be more like giving them relationship cues with executing, kind of focus. To where it's like, oh, stop at this point and go sit down with this person and get an update on their part of the project and, ask them how it's going, what's going well, what isn't going well. So I think that could really close that gap with somebody who is executing, and a relationship person wants a certain result from this person and wants them to really understand what success looks like from that relationship leading person.
So with executing, they're always the hardest working person on the crew in their mind. And they are usually, right? No one's working harder than them. So if you're leading them or communicating to them with a relationship, you kind of want to point out, yes, you are the hardest working person. So how can we get the other people to support you, right? How can you help the other people? And they will harbor a lot of resentment a lot of times toward other people because they're carrying the whole team. They feel that way sometimes, right? So communicating to them like, hey, we are a team. There'll always be a superstar on the team. You might be the superstar, right? And also like, but how can you support the other people on the team? How does this make the whole company look? They will, a lot of times they will want to work alone, but they won't want to work alone. It's a very interesting, it depends again, if that executing is mature or immature. So sometimes if you have mature executing, they can work on a team really well. And if you have immature, they will be they have a hard time working on a team because you would think they would just want to go do their work, but they'll have all this resentment they're harboring to everybody because they're always doing everything. They're always doing more than everybody else. And if you have mature, they are doing more than everybody else, and they realize it, and they will help the other teammates. Especially if they have a relationship like lead, hey, this is how we can do better as a team. Let me do the things I'm really good at. You can do the other things that will contribute. But how to speak to that relationship is really about connecting that, like how your talent matches up on the team and how your contributions match up to the team. I had Steve with Green Profit Academy. I was just reading a Harvard Business Review study that showed people who have written down goals and plans make 10 times more money over a 10-year period than people who don't write their goals and plans down. And really, that's why I'm so excited to announce the Green Profit Academy Mind Your Own Business Retreat. This is going to be the third retreat we're putting on. It's going to be held in Granville, Tennessee at the Wildwood Resort and Marina. It's going to be on November 4th to November 8th. And we're going to work on not only your 1 year, but your 1 to 5 year business plan and goals. So you're going to be so far ahead of people who don't have written down goals and plans. We are doing this because we want your business to be far more successful than you ever imagined. And it all starts with goals and plans. So join us this year, November 4th to November 8th for the Mind Your Own Business Retreat. Let's see. Come on, sign up. I'm going to put the link to sign up in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing you there. It's time to get serious about your business. Now's the time to start.
All right. So what about if you lead with relationship and you need to speak to an influencing person?
So that is a great question because it really depends on which influencing themes that you're going to lead with. So if the person leads with, and it's interesting because if you lead with competition, significance, and command, typically you won't have the other ones, which are like activator, woo, maximizer, arranger. There'll be different themes. So if you're a relationship and you're trying to communicate to that person that leads with significance, command, and competition, so competition is a ranger, is a influencing strength. It's always comparing. So it's the comparison of like themselves to everybody else, the group to other groups. It's a comparison theme. So you're going to want to, like, again, because they're slowing down, you're going to want to use language that lets that influencer time to do the comparing. Or significance means it can mean one of two things. They want to be part of something that is bigger than themselves, and they want to be something that is doing something significant. So the relationship can kind of point that out, like, hey, what you're doing means a lot to people, and how that ties into other people in relationship wise. And that will mean a lot to the influencing. In command is that leadership role and how the influencer is impacting other people through their leadership.
So if a relationship is speaking to an influencing person, really kind of building up that you can champion this, right? As like the driver, the person who makes sure it happens, who supports the rest of the team, who, checks off the tasks that these things are done, so things like that. So it's kind of like really emphasizing that champion aspect if they're heavy in influencing things or lead with influencing.
It's very much like acknowledging when the strategic does the great reports and does the super Excel reports. It's like, hey, when you're leading and when you're comparing, this is how it helps the team. This is how it helps the people that you're supporting, and just making them aware of that, because they'll be so focused on, well, we're doing better than that team, and these numbers are better than that they're not connecting it always to who it's actually helping. They just know that they're winning.
Right.
And they will forget that how that supports the whole team and the people that actually they're the reason they're there.
So then the next one is relationship to strategic thinking. And
you can do this one.
Well, yeah, I definitely know kind of like my challenges from my past around this. And I kind of came up with the saying of, it's not you, it's me. Don't take it personally. So relationship people will come up and talk to me. And I'm like, yeah. And I just don't seem that interested. And really, I'm kind of not, but it's not about you. It's nothing about that relationship person. It's more about me. Like, it needs to be a conversation that I would want to strategically engage in and communicate about. But all the kind of like gooey, ooey, touchy feely stuff, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe, I don't know. Maybe we could talk about something like human behavior instead. That's more interesting. So that one, I think that for, bringing strategic concepts that serve the relationship domain is helpful, right? So it's like, what's the long-term success of this, right? Bringing that to the table. So maybe even, sharing kind of like, what do you need them to do? Maybe it's networking, maybe it's solving a problem, again, the who, what, why, and not getting so much into the feelings of it, or, and again, depending on the people, right? What their strengths are. Like, I have relator and individualism. So I'm like very interested in what makes people different, but I'm only interested in connecting with a certain amount of those people. But then I also like to create collaboration, with a good handful of people.
Right. So with relationship, and we're thinking of, so what are those themes, right? Individualization, positivity, developer, harmony, empathy, relator, adaptability, includer, connectedness. So you have, I know, relator is in your top 5, and that's that small group of people. But so with that, like you said, the gooey, is that what you said?
Like the ooey gooey kind of
gooey, the feelings, right? And you get that because they bring that up on you, and you're like, okay, uncomfortable, right? And they feel it too. But they're trying to connect to your relator. It's interesting. But it can be a little uncomfortable. So, right. So the relationship is going to come up and speak to you, and how do you feel when they are starting to talk to you? Like, what's that initial feeling?
Well, it depends on the situation and who they are. But one, it could be like, I don't know you. Right.
Okay,
like,
right.
Like, I don't know you. Like, but people will come and talk to me. Like, they tell me just about everything.
Right.
And then I think about like, okay, what's their intention of them talking to me? Like, what are they trying to achieve? So my strategic comes out the gate and starts, working with my relationship. But yeah, I kind of get curious. I'm more curious now than I used to be. But it's, yeah, that relationship part, I'm wanting to get to the why, right? Why are you talking to me? What do you want? How are you trying to connect? Like, what's the intention here? So I think it's my strategic showing up, automatically in the relationship side. But I stay curious to the degree where I'm like, oh, what's different about this person? And, what could I learn from them? Or, so I'm not so much uninviting as I used to be. I'm more curious, but I still want it to, I don't want to have like super deep conversations.
Right. The onion peeling, I call it, when you get really deep into that layer, especially initially when you meet them. Right. Yeah. So what is, if a relationship was going to speak with you, what's an effective form of communication to your strategic thinking?
Yeah. So I'd want to know, like, what's important, right? If they're asking something of me, like, what's important? Sure, share with me like who this serves, right? Because it's important to me. I do have some relationship there of who can we support? How can we support their success? What's the outcome? What success look like for you? Right. So tell me, as a relationship, someone who leads with relationship, like what's success for you in this? And like, what do you think I can bring to the table? So being willing to have a conversation about it to fill in the gaps, for my strategic.
Yeah.
From the relationship aspect. Like, I want to know your who, your what, your why, and then if you don't know it, let me ask you questions about it, because guess what? We're going to figure it out, relationship person.
Right. So we've just covered this, right? I mean, and we're sharing kind of our own personal experiences around this, and we work with this all the time. So you can imagine how powerful this is. It's been in our relationships with our team at work and also in our personal lives. So if you're struggling, anyone who's listened to this, with communication with people on your team or in your personal life, and you have this knowledge and this tool, I kind of now feel I owe it to people in my life to take the time to learn about their domains and their strengths. I owe it to the relationship to communicate better.
Yeah.
Because I've been shown this path of like, how, like, me and my wife went on vacation to England. And so I scheduled activities to feed her strengths, that learner, right? What does learners love to do? Learn about stuff and find out. So we had activities that fed that learner analytical strength, and to kind of serve that domain, that strategic domain. And that makes her happy. And I did things that served my influencing domain, right? So when you have that in relationships and working with my landscape manager, how does he want to be communicated? Okay, that was a big like relief valve in our relationship. So that's kind of really what we're talking about. You don't have to remember all this, what we just talked about, every domain and how to talk to it. It's just like, if you have people in your life that you want that better communication, maybe you want to accomplish more in your business. Maybe you want a relationship that means a lot to you to improve. Strengths is a way to get there.
Yeah. And I have a team member. We just finished up our team retreat, and we did the exercise, balcony to basements, or basements to balconies. And it was finding, a way to improve on your strength, to where maybe it's not showing up as the best, or you keep getting caught up in something with one of your strengths. And this team member leads with executing. And she is very executing. She's like executing. And then, some other things come after that, but way far. So she's just loaded with executing. And one of the realizations she had there, because we have, relationship people who lead with relationship on our team. We have people that lead with influencing and people that lead with strategic thinking. And one of the things that she realized is, with the relationship people, she's like, I need to slow down and I need to not ask them questions, but hear what they're saying and understand why they're saying it to me instead of just letting her executing go wild. And so that was something like she realized. She's like, I need the story behind what they're sharing. And I need to give them the space to tell me that and not just ask them more questions to get to the answer because she just wants to solve it or she just wants to know.
Right.
And then she realized with, influencing that she could give them information and the influencing because they're, higher in communication or they make sure others want to be heard or, it created opportunities to address things that she may not have seen. So she's like, I can share stuff with them and then they'll give me some feedback or support in a way that I'm not thinking. And it was, what are my actions? What are my intentions? What does success look like for me? And then the influencing person, could ask questions or even, share some insights with her.
Yeah, and that's perfect. Great example. I mean, it's just so powerful, right? The executing, especially if they have restorative. So they want to solve, they want to fix. So they're always listening with, okay, they're only telling me this because they want me to fix it for them. And then, so the person who's telling them, they're like, why do they always want to fix everything? I'm just sharing that with them. But the challenge is when people do that, the restorative's like, I'm giving you my restorative gift. That's why I'm telling you how to fix it. So people want to give us their gifts. That's when they're doing certain things. And if we recognize they're giving us their gifts, like, the strategics will always frequently tell you what's wrong. And that's their gift. Their talent is to see what's wrong with things. And it comes across as negative sometimes. It can come across as nitpicking, but that is their true talent. They see what's wrong almost instantly, way ahead of everyone else. So, and the strategics will complain a little bit. Why doesn't anybody else see that? How come everyone's so far behind? Because that's their strategic ability, is to see what's wrong. And in the group, that's their job and that's the function of the strategic. So that's what I count on my strategics for. And that's why I'm always looking for their input. I'm not upset with it because I don't see it. I know that on my team in my life, that's what they're there for. Other people can take offense to it but not appreciate it. But once you realize that's their strategic role, then you can appreciate it. Just like if you realize an arranger's role, people who are always arranging things and putting things in different places, that's what an arranger does. And someone who has high adaptability they don't need to plan stuff. They can just show up and do it. Adaptability is my number 34. I can't do that. But I love people who have adaptability because it's, I can appreciate them. Or high empathy. Empathy is like 25 for me. But I appreciate people who have that ability to feel deeply. And now I do, but before CliftonStrengths, I didn't understand it. So
you were quite the grizzly bear.
I was quite the grizzly bear. I did not understand why. I thought it was really a waste of time to be so emotionally feeling all the time. I didn't realize it was a strength, a theme, and that I thought it was just really a hindrance to people. And now I realize it's a superpower, and we need that person on our team, and we need all the people on our team. And it really makes us, strengthens our team and strengthens our family.
Yeah. And then there's a couple things I'll share about, as a strategic, just leading. If you lead with strategic, if you're talking to a relationship person, it's very important to slow down and explain to them, why it matters, what the outcome is, who it serves, right? And include that people connection piece into it. Like, who are these people? So, creating those common goals from the strategic aspect to the relationship person is very effective. This is something that I found where I'm like, okay, strategically, I want this. This is what it looks like. Can you tell me what that means to you? So it will help me understand where the relationship person is thinking, what they're feeling, what their intentions are. That's, I feel like, is one of my trickiest themes to communicate with is relationship, because I am so high executing and strategic. And then I have the influencing. So then strategic with influencing. And I feel like influencing is very easy to talk to. Influence and executing are the two easiest for strategic to talk to. Influencing would come first because strategics can say things to them and they will receive them and they won't go do stuff with them. They won't feel it, right?
They will not feel it.
They will not feel
do it.
Yeah. So you could just talk to them. So I think, talking to influencing things are very easy for me as a strategic, because I could tell them all my strategic and executing thought process, and they just hear me and they'll give me some great feedback, right? There's no feeling and there's no doing involved.
And you won't hurt their feelings about it.
No, it's just won't happen.
It won't happen.
But the executing can be a little bit challenging. And this is why. And I think influencing probably experiences this as well. So if you're strategic or influencing and you're talking to an executing person, it's very important to let them know. And this happens with my team, and I have a highly executing team. I will say something and they will just go off and do it. So I have to tell them, so I'm going to share this idea with you because I'm strategic and I think about things in this way. And I say, but this isn't now. Nobody's to do this now. Nobody's to act on it. This is just something I'm thinking of. So I have to set the stage of expectations. And so this is why I think influencing also has this challenge. Same with strategic, talking to executing people. We have to set the stage, or the executing theme will run off and do all the things that we just talked about, because it's a task list, and checking off tasks brings them such joy. So really, I have to communicate a timeline. I have to communicate my expectations. I have to tell them, like, don't do anything with this. But then if I do want something, I have to kind of have the same approach. Like, this is going to be the top priority. Put this other one on the back burner because you won't have capacity, because I call executing people task hoarders. So they'll just pick up all these tasks and run around with them and try to check all the boxes off.
And their task basket.
Yeah, and their task basket. And most of the stuff never gets done. That would, I would say, be the immature side of executing. So a strategic thinking, talking to the executing people is, if you have a plan, give it to them. Sharing milestones with them is really great. Expectations and timelines. And also, and this is most important, tell them what they're giving up if they're going to start something new, because they may not be there yet.
Yes. If they're going to take that, what are they going to give up? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I think, if you're influencing and you talk to executing people, some of the things might be relative, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I always start with, this is just an idea. This is just a concept. I'm putting it out there. I will actually start conversations with my strategics with, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Shoot holes in it. Just absolutely punch holes in it, and they will smash it, and I'll be gone. Absolutely right. Back to the drawing board, right? But if you say it to executing, and they will start it, they will just start doing it. If you don't let them know it's just an idea, just a concept, and you have to let them know. I'm just spitballing here, just talking about it. What do you guys think about it? And so you have to communicate that. Yes.
Yeah. And then they'll be like, I'm doing all this work, and then I'm doing this work, and I'm doing this work. And it's like, okay, well, let's talk about all this work that you're doing, executing theme.
They will be the hardest person working person in the company. They are executing people are always the hardest working people in the company. And they will let you know that, and they are. Because they have that task basket that they bring with them. They carry it around all the time.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
invisible. It lives in the cloud. And guess what? It can hold unlimited amount of tasks for no extra
And
cost.
yes. So it's exhausting. I find, so in coaching people, the two most exhausting strengths I find that people carry, one is empathy, because that emotional part can be very heavy. They grab a hold of emotional stuff and they carry it with them. It's hard to let go. And then the other one is the responsibility theme. So when it's number 1 and number 5 for people, they just mine. They hoard the task. They take on stuff that it's not even in their lane, or it's not, it goes in that task basket, and they take on so many different things that don't belong to them, or parts of things that don't belong to them, and it can overwhelm them. So 2 very heavy and exhausting strengths. And some people have both of them in their top 5.
Yeah.
And
Those are some big beasts of burden to be carrying around with you everywhere.
if they're immature, they're exhausting. If they're mature, they are magical strengths. If they're matured, they know when to say no. They know if they say yes to something, what do they say no to? They know where their lanes are. They know their responsibility. Strength is they're responsible to doing this and not that. So it's a magical event in their life, or magical experience when they fully mature those talent themes.
Yeah. And that's really hard, because I think that's not how, we are culturally raised. Most of us is, we need to do. It's this high executing, do, take on things, pull up your bootstraps. So I think that it's very common to run across, responsibility themes, that strength where it's not mature. And it's not mature because we've been taught to say yes and to do things and accomplish things. And, we just need to suck it up. So I think that it's common that it shows up, and it exhausts society.
It's almost applauded, right? It's almost applauded. Grind it out, workaholics, just keep that. And there's actually it's called manic defense. It's a mental illness. It's a type of coping with any kind of addiction, alcoholism, drug addiction, any kind of addiction. Manic defense, it just keeps busy. Multiple businesses, multiple this, multiple. It's this constant busyness. Will Smith has manic defense. You have projects and movies and businesses and book deals, and it's all this, and it's applauded by society. Oh, look how busy they are. They have all these projects and everything going on. So it's that constant doing. So it's kind of like, look at them grinding it out, and really it's not healthy.
Yeah. No.
All right, so we're going to have a little conclusion. So by understanding all of these Gallup CliftonStrengths and their themes, it can help us understand how to communicate better to people who are in our close-knit world, at work and at home. So this episode kind of explored that. And if you are looking to have better communication with the people in your world, we'd love to work with you. We encourage you to reflect on these methodologies we talked about and how you could implement this in your life. We'd invite you to check out our coaching program. You can work with me directly. I'd love to do that. We've really seen some major changes. I get massage about once a month to help with different aches and pains. And my massage therapist, I've been working with her and her CliftonStrength, and she's actually going back to school because of the work we've done. And she's going to become a counselor therapist, and she's going to integrate that into her massage. And because once she took her CliftonStrength and she really aligned her strengths, she was like, it really clarified a lot of her life's work. She's like, oh my God, that's why this, that's why I felt that, that's why this. So it made a lot of sense to her, and also in the relationship with her husband. It's like, that's why we have this challenge and that. And so it really clarified a lot of things really quickly, which I found pretty amazing. So when people find this out, it really opens their eyes up. It opened my eyes up, and so much to the point where I became a certified Clifton strength coach. So I'd love to work with you and your team. It's helped me and my team. This year, we've had tremendous success, even though we've had growth. We've had way less struggles through the growth because we've been able to communicate to each other's strengths and talent themes at a much deeper level. Faster, quicker than ever before.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. We've been implementing it in our company for many years. And it's given all of us so much insight to really work from where we're great and do the things we're really good at. And it has improved the efficiency of the company just beyond my expectations. So it's a phenomenal tool. It's great to work with Steve. I know my team members have had coaching conversations with him around around their strengths. And they always come back and they're like, it was almost like a therapy session. It was amazing. And just the insight that they get from a strengths coaching session, it changes how they show up, the challenges that they kind of get caught in. That lead to inefficiencies, that helps them understand those, and they come up with their own solutions, to get out of their own way. So, I mean, it's a phenomenal team development tool, and it brings an exceptional amount of insight in leadership.
It really does. I love it. Individualism is my number 4 strength. So I'm always leaning deeply into individualism when I coach people and connecting with them where they're at. And I go through all of their strengths before we meet, and I've handpicked the videos that people get to watch after they take the assessment. We send them their videos that they can watch. It helps them understand their own strengths and themes at a deeper level. So I really like helping people, connect to their strengths and themes better. And a lot of times the next one is, then they have to have people that they work with take the assessment, and their family and friends. And so I love sharing that and helping everybody kind of connect to everybody in their life through CliftonStrengths. And communication is like the best step that they can take to deepening those relationships. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this podcast, and we look forward to you joining us on the next one. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Green Profit Academy Pros Podcast,
the show that digs into the challenges of growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit.